Hey guys, it's me, Halloween Dan, and today we're talking about some brand new props. That's right, it might only be January, but there are new things to talk about, which always excites me and gets me so pumped for Halloween. This time, we're talking about props that have been slowly being revealed over the last few days at the Halloween and Party Expo over in Las Vegas. And it is, of course, like always, very exciting to see these new props. It really sets the tone for the year, and this is always something I look forward to in January. So let's talk about it. So as with last year, with this particular expo, the focus of a lot of people's attention last year was Morris Costumes. Now, Morris Costumes always attend this particular expo, and they always bring to this particular expo all their classics, the props we've all seen for a while. You've got the 10-foot Reaper there. You've got a selection of witch props. It all looks pretty good. Oh, the Bat guy that hangs upside down, which I was very impressed with last year. Really cool things. And as well as that, some props that last year really sort of stole the show, like the Carnival Barker. But amongst them are some brand new props. Props that we really need to talk about because I have to say, guys, they're pretty awesome.
Wow, that's awesome.
One in particular, I think I really like. Yeah, I think I like it a lot. But we're going to start with another prop that I think is the prop most other people are the most excited about. And it is a cool prop, I have to say. Because the prop we're going to start with is the Sword Swallower prop. Now, as I already have said, last year it was the Carnival Barker that kind of stole the show. It was a really cool prop. And although in my last video I talked about how I disliked the sort of carnival clown theme, it's actually not the carnival theme, it is the clowns. I'm not fussed on clowns. And I liked this prop because it wasn't a clown. It was carnival themed, and he's a roll up and all that coming to the freak show. But he wasn't a clown. You know what I mean? That wasn't what he was. So I liked it off that basis, and I thought that could work in a lot of different haunts. And it seems that Morris Costumes have gone down this road similar to the Carnival Barker, where they're thinking less about clowns and more about sort of freak show acts. And that's, I think, what this guy's sort of falls into, the category he kind of falls into. He's a very impressive looking prop. I actually really love this prop. I love the detail on this thing. I like the outfit he's wearing. It's this very simple sort of, he's got suspenders on, he's wearing a white shirt, he's got a little red bow tie and a red hat to match. And then obviously the main thing about this guy is he's swallowing a sword, which is, I don't think I've ever seen that in any prop before. It's a really simple movement. He's just really slowly lowering the sword down his throat, and then he jolts it back out again and starts the whole motion again. He's holding it in his right hand, swallowing the sword. There's not much more to say about that. But the action, though simple, is really quite effective. It's really kind of cool. And the look of this guy, he's got this kind of crazed look on his face, as if this is some act he's been doing for years and he's actually gone mad from having to do it so often. He's got kind of blood splatter around his mouth, as though maybe he's delved a little too deep with that sword. He kind of has an almost zombie-esque vibe when you close up in on the face. He's got white eyes. He just kind of looks a bit deranged. And the whole sword swallowing thing, I think you've got to have a bit of a screw loose to want to have to do that in real life anyway. So it kind of goes very well in this particular theme. So yeah, he gets a bit of an A star for me, a bit of an A plus, because I really like the look of this guy. Just like the Carnival Barker though, I'm not sure he would actually work in my personal haunt. I'm not really sure I'd have a place for him, but I still really like him, and it's something very different and something very new. So well done, Morris Costumes there. For me though, I think my favourite prop, I'm not sure it's everybody's, but it's the prop that I certainly saw and thought, wow, that's cool. It's different in a completely different way. Some of you might not agree with that statement, but that is a prop that you see very, very briefly as this sort of in these images I've managed to gather together, mostly off Instagram. where the camera sort of sweeps across and you see a guy that is simply being referred to as the Morris Costumes grave robber. Now, you don't see a huge amount of detail in this video, but what you can clearly see is that it's this same theme that I always really love. It's the graveyard host. It can be the grave digger. I've loved all these props, graveyard guys, basically. Creepy old guys hanging about in graveyards. I really quite like it. Usually I like it when they're holding a lantern, which is weird, but I do really like this particular genre, I think because I like graveyards and stuff. This, though, is a bit of a different take, though in many ways this guy looks very similar to the same sort of graveyard guys we've seen before. This one is clearly holding a body bag and he is grave robbing. And to add to the animation, though, he has a very simple animation and he's talking, though you can't really see or hear what he's saying properly. The body bag is kind of flipping about and moving, like the body inside actually maybe isn't dead, like maybe it's not so much a person being grave robbed as actually being murdered. I don't quite know what the theme they're supposed to be, but I think it's really clever that they've added this animation to the body bag to sort of give an extra dimension of fun to this prop, give a different spin on something we've seen lots of times before. I love that. I love the whole graveyard genre area anyway, and I think this would be really cool. And it actually is something that I would consider buying if it wasn't overly expensive. I will briefly talk about the clown that I know everybody else will want me to talk about, even though I'm not that fussed on clowns. This actually isn't that bad of a clown. Referred to simply as the balancing clown, it's a quite small clown balancing on a stick. And he's saying some creepy lines. He's got his yellow glowing eyes. He's got, I think it's green hair with a dual coloured outfit. It looks red and yellow, the outfit, though it's hard to tell because there's lots of different lights shining on him. And yeah, it's a clown balancing on a pole. It's a bit different. It's kind of cool. Again, if you're into your clown haunts and stuff, I think this would be a pretty cool addition. I really do think it would be. But again, for me, not that big of a thing. There were lots of other props there that looked pretty cool. There was a scarecrow, I think described as the 9-foot scarecrow. It looks quite big. It's up on quite high up on the stand. The face mold on the scarecrow looked quite impressive. It had these bright yellow eyes. It was a pretty creepy looking scarecrow. All I'll say is it either wasn't displayed particularly well because you couldn't really get the full vibe, but its motion was very simple. It just seemed to be moving backwards and forwards a little bit, and it didn't even have any mouth movement. So a very simple scarecrow prop there. There was another scarecrow prop that looked like it possibly was a static prop. It had a crow on its arm and it was in the traditional sort of scarecrow out in a field kind of a pose. Again, pretty wicked looking scarecrow, but it still looked like a relatively simplistic prop. There was also at one point you very briefly see a guy with like a Hessian sack on his head with like scarecrow details in itself, but he's one of them jump scares, so he's holding a chainsaw and he's got his head down, and then as you trigger he starts to sort of violently jiggle and shake and he raises the chainsaw above his head. That's a pretty cool prop, I have to say. I've not seen that before. Pretty awesome. The only other prop, Morris Costumes prop, I really wanted to talk about very briefly is something, again, you only see very briefly. It's quite in the background. I've seen some other videos that have got clearer images of this, but I've not heard back from the people whether I could use their footage or not, so I didn't use it. This is simply called the Body Turning Reaper, and it's a 12-foot prop by what it looks like. It's a very big, imposing prop. It's got a very big skeletal head, bright red glowing eyes, and then it kind of looks very much like a classic Reaper outfit. And its movement is very simple. It's just turning backwards and forwards. Now, in essence, I like this prop. I love Reaper props. I always do. But when you put this alongside something like the 10-foot Reaper, like the one I owned that was a Costco one, it's a bit too simplistic. There's just something about the posing of the body. Maybe they haven't posed it to its full, to really make the best of it. I'm not really sure. The video doesn't really seem to do it a lot of justice. Plus, it has no movement in the mouth. The eyes are just red eyes. It's a cool looking thing, but it kind of looks a bit flimsy to me. It just looks like the sort of thing that if there was a strong gust of wind, it would just snap in two. And it's, yeah. maybe not the best prop in the world. I like the direction, I like the 12-foot aspect. Of course, I love a 12-foot prop, but I just think maybe this is a little bit too simplistic. I'm not sure. There were loads of other things to see, and there's loads of other things I could talk about. But before I go, I just wanted to very briefly talk about Sunstar, which is also at this particular expo. Now, I usually don't talk that highly of Sunstar. It's one of those brands of prop people that it's okay, but generally what they're known for is sort of cheaper end props. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a place in the market for everything, and I always feel quite bad for having a go at Sunstar because they do have a worthy place in the market. They do bring things to people who maybe they don't have an expendable amount of money that they can just throw at Halloween every year, and they do look for smaller scale props. And you know what? Some of their smaller scale props are pretty good. They're okay. It's just that when you look at the quality of their props, alongside the sorts of things Morris Costumes bring to the table, you can definitely see the difference. And to begin with, there was a prop that everyone was kind of like, is this good? I'm not sure if this is good. People weren't even sure if it was Sunstar or if it was Morris Costumes, because what I'm about to talk about is a 12-foot werewolf. Don't get too excited. It's a 12-foot werewolf, that's definitely true. And for a while, everyone thought it was a Morris Costumes prop because the pictures we first saw was of this great big werewolf in front of the Morris Costumes sign. But it appears that that werewolf was just kind of stood there, and actually it's actually a Sunstar prop, and it was on the Sunstar booth. That's what it appears to have become. Now, I could still be proven wrong by that, but it just doesn't have Morris Costumes or SVI vibes. It just doesn't look very good, if I'm honest. It's a werewolf and it's 12 foot, but it's clearly not a very well thought through werewolf. It's very, very simplistic. For some reason, you can see the rib cage on it, which that to me doesn't really say werewolf. I'm not really sure why you can see the rib cage on the werewolf. I'm not sure. The face and everything, it's all very simplistic. Again, it's a very simple, just sort of turning movement. And it's, yes, it's 12 foot, but it literally looks like you could snap it like a twig. It looks really flimsy and not particularly well put together or thought through. So, sorry Sunstar, it doesn't really get my vote. There was a lot of other interesting things at the Sunstar booth. Go and check out, there's loads of videos you can go and have a look at just to see some other things in details. But it is pretty much what we've seen from Sunstar before. A lot of skeletons and skulls and smaller props and hanging props and witches and stuff. It's all pretty good, but it is what Sunstar is. It's pretty simplistic and I would say the cheaper end of the scale. But you be the judge. Don't let me be your judge. Anyway, guys, I just thought I'd run through those props as quickly as I could. They're really, really cool. I really like quite a few of them, particularly that grave robber prop. He looked pretty epic, I have to say. Yeah, it's exciting to see new props. It's exciting that we're here. It's January, we're ready and raring. Let's get into the new season. And it just gets me excited for what else we might see. What else is 2024 gonna bring to the table? That's an exciting question, right? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you in the next one. Keep it spooky. Bye.